The story begins with an unnamed woman traveling toward an unknown destination. When she arrives, she walks into a field where a group of donkeys graze. Without hesitation, she raises a gun and shoots one of them dead, and thus the main story begins. David has recently discovered that his wife has left him without explanation. According to the law, he must now report to a government-run Center for Finding Love to form a new relationship. He arrives there with his dog, and after filling out a registration form detailing his interests and sexual preferences, he waits to be accepted. It's been 12 years since David last experienced single life. His dog, in fact, used to be his brother, a man who came to this same center the year before in hopes of finding a partner. He failed, and as a result was transformed into a dog. Next, David joins a group of other new arrivals in a preparation room where they hand over all personal belongings and are issued the standard hotel uniform. Eventually, he's assigned to room 101, a room with a beautiful view. Inside, he finds a tranquilizer gun and 20 darts, identical clothing to that of the other singles, and a lifeless plastic wall clock. David gazes out the window and sees unconscious bodies being carried across the field, single people who have been hunted down in the nearby forest by other hotel guests. Hours later, the hotel manager and her partner visit David's room to welcome him and explain the rules. The manager tells David that during his 45 days, he must find a new partner. Otherwise, he'll be transformed into an animal. In his new life as a creature, he'll be allowed to choose a mate of the same species, though of course there are limits. A penguin, she reminds him, can never mate with a parrot. The manager asks David what animal he'd like to become if he fails. David replies that he wishes to become a lobster, because lobsters are known for their loyalty in love and can live for more than 100 years in the sea. The manager congratulates him on his excellent choice. With the help of attendants, she imposes physical restrictions on David's clothing, an exercise meant to make him realize how much easier life is when shared with a partner. He must spend an entire day this way, struggling through even the simplest daily tasks. The next morning, David wakes up to 44 days remaining. He heads to the dining hall to join the others for breakfast. Among them, he notices a woman constantly suffering from nosebleeds, accompanied by her close friend. For a moment, David's thoughts drift to his ex-wife, the woman who left him, before turning back to the lineup of women at the hotel.
Perhaps he'll choose one of them as her replacement. The woman addicted to cream-filled biscuits, or the one with such a cold demeanor that her heart seems carved from stone. Across the room, the paired guests enjoy a far more luxurious breakfast than the singles. David befriends two other men, Robert and John. Together, they sit by the shore, sharing their thoughts and strategies for finding a partner. The final stage of the program, they learn, requires the new couples to spend 15 days together aboard a yacht. If they succeed, they're allowed to rejoin society. Robert speaks with a stammer and John walks with a limp. During an introductory gathering, the hotel manager asks each newcomer to describe their defining traits to make the pairing process easier. John recounts the story of his limp. Years ago, his mother, who had been transformed into a wolf, bit his left leg, leaving him permanently disabled. Perhaps, he says, if there's a woman with a limp or any kind of physical impairment, she might be drawn to him, and together they could form a couple. Then it's everyone else's turn, and finally David's, to share their personal qualities. After the introductions comes the dance, performed by none other than the hotel manager and her partner. It's meant to help the newcomers connect more easily during the evening. The biscuit-loving woman tries to sit beside the cold-hearted girl, but the latter ignores her, remaining unmoved as the first woman's nose bleeds again and again. Others describe the cold-hearted woman as a ruthless hunter, a top-tier predator of single people. She's said to have hunted 192 individuals so far and has remained single at the hotel for quite some time. The others warn David to stay away from her, but David gathers his courage and asks one of the single women to dance. Unfortunately, a simple dance changes nothing. He needs something more substantial to forge a connection, a shared flaw, a common pain, something binding. In the end, All he gains is a blood-stained shirt and another failed day. Robert keeps his distance from the ruthless woman, and John loses interest in the biscuit addict, abandoning her mid-dance. After the event, it's time for the nightly hunt. Armed with their tranquilizer guns, the guests head into the forest. We see a slow-motion montage of the singles being tracked and captured by the hotel's residents. Most fail to make a successful hit, except for the cold-hearted woman, who, as always, takes down several victims with flawless precision. David does his best, but every one of his shots misses. The hotel attendant counts the captured singles and announces that for each successful hunt, the hunters will earn an extra day added to their 45-day stay. Those who fail, however, gain nothing. They'll simply have to try again on the next hunt. 32 days remain for David.
The attendant reloads his darts and asks him to lie on the bed. Following the hotel's daily routine, she stimulates him over his clothes to encourage his romantic impulses and push him toward finding a partner. Afterwards, as usual, he must attend the group assembly in the main hall. There, they're shown a series of instructional skits promoting the benefits of being a couple. The hotel's system is designed to brainwash its residents, nudging them, by fear or persuasion, to couple up at any cost. Robert, however, is caught secretly masturbating. As punishment for wasting his masculine energy, the hotel manager has his right hand burned inside a toaster. The pain is meant to ensure he seeks a real partner instead of satisfying himself. Later, John tells his friends about how humans are physically transformed into animals, the surgical process of transplanting vital organs, the preservation of consciousness, the repurposing of excess blood and tissue. He learned all this from his uncle, who once worked at the hotel. To David, the process sounds disturbingly logical. On the bus ride to the next hunt, the biscuit woman confides in David. She tells him she's willing to accept any of his fetishes, whatever they may be, if he'll agree to pair with her. She promises to stay by his side forever. David, unmoved, stares out the window, avoiding eye contact, unwilling to respond. Finally, the poor woman admits that because she's terrible at hunting and can't extend her stay, she plans to throw herself from the upper floors of the hotel within the next few days if she doesn't find a match. David is stunned, but says nothing. He simply looks ahead in silence until they reach their destination. During shooting practice, Robert suggests that if they all fail to find a partner, the three of them should choose to become parrots so they can spend the rest of their lives together. His despair amuses John, who mocks him mercilessly, saying he'd never settle for becoming a pet, a tamed animal waiting for scraps or destined to be hunted. He vows to keep trying until he finds a proper match. Their argument grows heated until David intervenes and separates them. At the pool, John sees the nosebleed woman and seizes his opportunity. While she's distracted, he slams his head against the edge of the pool, giving himself a bloody nose to mimic her condition, a twisted attempt to show compatibility. David, observing from afar, knows exactly what he's doing. Hours later, John proudly announces that he's found his match. Sometimes, he says, it's better to bleed than to be devoured by something larger in the wild. The hotel manager congratulates the new couple publicly, wishing them luck as they move on to the next phase, a 2-week trial stay in one of the VIP couple's suites. If they pass that, they'll proceed to the final test, 14 days on a yacht. Should they return from the voyage without conflict, they'll be officially released back into society. Only 7 days remain for David. He must decide whether to accept his fate and become a lobster or find some deceitful way to appear compatible with one of the women. Even his brother, now a dog, seems to have lost faith in him. Desperate, David approaches the nosebleed woman's best friend, who's on her final day at the hotel. If she fails to pair up by midnight, she'll be transformed into an animal. But David's attempt fails. She calmly tells him she'd rather become an animal than pair with him. The hotel manager advises her to spend her final day doing
doing something that she won't be able to do once she's transformed. The woman thinks for a moment, then slaps her best friend across the face, blaming her for abandoning her years ago and for refusing to share her fate. The next morning, she's transformed into a golden-maned pony. David watches from his window as she trots through the courtyard, knowing his turn is coming soon. Determined to delay his transformation, David decides to fake a relationship, to pretend to love someone he doesn't. He approaches the hotel's most dangerous woman, the cold-hearted hunter, who at that very moment is standing calmly by the window watching the biscuit woman's failed suicide attempt. The poor girl has jumped from the first floor, not high enough to die quickly, and now writhes in agony. David joins the hunter, pretending to share her indifference. He tells her that not only is he unbothered by the woman's suffering, he's actually glad she's in pain and hopes she lingers in it a little longer before she dies. His words please the ruthless hunter. She becomes intrigued by him and begins to watch him closely. The next day, David joins her in the jacuzzi. Suddenly, she chokes on an olive and begins to gasp for air, thrashing in panic, fighting to stay alive. David has learned his lesson well. Instead of helping the choking huntress, he simply watches her struggle for air, feigning indifference as she gasps and writhes. When she finally catches her breath, she reveals it was all an act, a test. Impressed by his cold detachment, she tells David they should become a couple since they share the same ruthless nature.
After receiving the key to their shared suite, they move into their new quarters to begin the first phase of their couples trial. David carefully plays the part, obedient, composed, and emotionally vacant, making sure she never suspects he's faking it. Days pass, and their relationship appears to strengthen, until one morning the huntress wakes him abruptly to announce that she's killed his brother, the dog, by repeatedly kicking him to death. David, keeping up his facade, acts unaffected, but the huntress finally sees through his performance. Furious at his deception, she decides to turn him in to the hotel manager, ensuring he'll be punished by being transformed into a random animal, condemned to live a miserable life as a creature he never chose. On their way to the manager's office, David manages to escape. With the secret help of one of the hotel maids, he knocks the huntress unconscious and drags her to the transformation room, where she's turned into an unspecified animal. Her exact fate never revealed, only that she deserved it. With the maid's assistance, David flees the hotel and escapes into the forest to join the rebel group known as the Loners. The Loners assure him he'll never have to worry about companionship again. Their law is the opposite of the hotel's. No one is allowed to fall in love or form a romantic relationship. Every member must cherish their solitude and avoid capture by the hotel's hunters. David has escaped one trap only to fall into another. In this world, loneliness is mandatory and affection is punishable. The penalty for kissing is having your lips cut off. For sex, the punishment is far worse. They train daily in survival and agility under the command of the loner leader, a woman known for her fierce independence. Among them is the narrator, the storyteller girl whose voice we've been hearing throughout the film. She meets David for the first time and instantly falls in love with him. Had they met in the hotel, they would have become a couple without hesitation. She even dreams of him at night, but hides her feelings, terrified of the consequences if anyone finds out. In the forest, compassion is forbidden. Anyone caught in a trap or tranquilized by hotel hunters receives no help. They're told that if they can't free themselves, they must crawl to their pre-dug grave and end their life. Better that than living as a verminous creature he never chose. During one hunt, Robert, now a hotel hunter, corners David and prepares to shoot him to earn another extra day. The storyteller girl intervenes, saving David's life, but in return, she asks him to bring her a rabbit. David later ambushes Robert, strips him naked, steals his tranquilizer gun, and leaves him behind. It's soon revealed that the hotel maid is actually an informant working with the Loners. She supplies them with equipment and tells the leader that once her current mission is complete, she plans to leave the hotel for good, to kill the dentist she's been living with and join the forest dwellers, living freely and away from that cursed institution. Now it becomes clear why she helped David kill the huntress in the first place.
Keeping his promise, David hunts down a large rabbit and brings it to the storyteller girl as a token of gratitude before leaving again. In the following days, David and the storyteller girl disguise themselves as a couple, wearing stolen clothes, and make their way into the city to buy supplies for the loners. The police stop suspicious-looking pairs, checking whether they've come from the forest. David tries to act natural, but an inspector approaches and begins questioning him. Before the situation escalates, the storyteller girl rushes over and smoothly intervenes, her quick thinking averting suspicion. As time passes, their connection deepens. One day, when David can't reach an ointment on his back, she applies it for him, her touch both gentle and dangerous, a forbidden act of intimacy that binds them further. They both know that this closeness could cost them their lives. The loner leader soon hands out a hit list. Targets include the hotel management and the happy couples aboard the yachts. She can't stand watching love flourish in a world where she's chosen isolation. During the mission, David tranquilizes several guards and infiltrates one of the luxury boats, while the rest of the loners sneak into the hotel. The leader storms into the manager's suite, ties up the hotel manager's wife, and forces her husband to shoot her. The gun clicks empty, a cruel setup meant to expose the fragility of their so-called love. The loners leave the couple broken, ensuring their emotional collapse will lead them to the same fate as everyone else, transformation. Meanwhile, David reaches the yacht where John and the nosebleed woman are staying. He exposes John's lie that his nosebleeds were fake and lets the woman finish the job herself, destroying their false relationship once and for all. Back in the forest, the hotel maid has joined the loners. She sits alone, listening to techno music through a battered headset, finally savoring the silence of her solitude. Apparently, the relationship between David and the narrator girl has grown much deeper. One day, as music plays quietly in the background, they secretly begin to dance together, away from the sight of the other members. They kiss, and over time, they develop a secret code to communicate even when surrounded by others. The two become completely infatuated, experiencing a forbidden love.
For the second time, they travel to the city. In the house of the group's leader, and in the presence of the leader's parents, David and the narrator girl begin a long, passionate kiss. The leader abruptly separates them, growing suspicious of their behavior. When they return to the forest, David tries to communicate through the secret language they invented, planning their escape to the city to finally live together in freedom. They can no longer stand to be apart, even for a single moment. Soon after, the leader takes David to a secluded area and orders him to dig his own grave, then lie inside and cover himself with soil, a symbolic experience of being close to death. Perhaps the leader does this to remind him what punishment awaits if he dares to break the rules again. Later, the leader takes the narrator girl to the city under the pretense of a medical visit to correct her nearsightedness. But in a shocking twist, he delivers her to a doctor who blinds her instead, a cruel punishment for breaking the forest law of solitude. It becomes clear that the leader has discovered their secret relationship and intends to separate them forever. He even betrays his trusted assistant, forcing the blind girl to kill the maid in her place. When David arrives for their planned meeting, he immediately realizes what has happened. His beloved has been blinded. The leader did this intentionally, ensuring they would never be compatible again, that their shared bond, their common ground, would be lost forever. Despite this, David stays by her side, caring for her tenderly and refusing to abandon his love. Yet the girl, now blind and heartbroken, feels their connection has vanished. She believes she must eventually find someone who shares her new condition, someone like herself. David refuses to give up. He convinces her to flee with him the next day. She agrees, but before their escape, David ambushes the leader in the darkness, knocks him unconscious, binds his hands and mouth, and throws him into the very grave he had once forced David to dig, leaving him there for the wild dogs to finish him. David and the narrator girl then flee together, unseen by the rest of the group, making their way toward the city. Their love now seems even stronger than that of Romeo and Juliet, a desperate, tragic bond beyond reason. Upon arriving in the city, David tells her that he plans to blind himself as well, so they can remain equals and truly be together forever. He takes a knife, but as he prepares to act, he hesitates. Fear and instinct stop him. Unable to go through with it, he quietly leaves the restaurant, abandoning his lover as she waits, still believing he would never leave her side. How far would you go for love? The end.